Yeah.
Matt Maiocco has made predictions for the first 49er picks. And this is what he's going with. He's going with the Niners starting with Byron Young, the defensive end edge rusher from Tennessee. Then going Wanya Morris, a tackle from Oklahoma. Then going tight end with Luke Schoonmaker from Michigan. Then he says they're going kicker, Jake Moody, the number one kicker out of Michigan. He says they're going safety with Jay Ward from LSU. And then he's got the big corner, Corey Trice from Purdue. Those are his top 5 picks for the 49ers. What do you think? What do you think of those picks? I mean, not that you've done a deep dive on all these guys, but what do you think overall of his selections?
Honestly, that's a hell of a draft. But the first two, Young and the tackle out of Oklahoma, I mean that right there, I'm happy with that. The rest is icing on the cake. Shoemaker from Michigan, I love Michigan, so I watch him all the time. He's a monster, big
Yeah.
physical tight end. He can block, he can do it all. We just talked about tight end. He'd be a guy that I'm okay with. Although I like your guy Allen from Eastern Kentucky. I'm gonna keep him on the radar. That sounds like a Kyle Shanahan undrafted special, but
They have a great eye. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I'm not a Niner fanboy. You know me, man. I will rip. I will ask critical questions. I've had 49er executives in my face screaming at me because of the kinds of questions that I have asked Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch in the past. So it's not like I'm the welcome wagon at Ninerland, but let's give credit where credit is fucking due, man.
Yeah.
These guys, DJ Jones in round 6, Dre Greenlaw in round 5, George Kittle in round 5, the whole slew of undrafted free agents year after year, Jawan Jennings in the 7th round. The Niners scouts between day 3 and after the draft, they're as good as there is in the league right now.
Yeah.
They're doing a really good job personnel-wise. Yeah, they've missed up front on a few, but, man, they have hit on the back end in a way that very few teams do.
No, 100%. They are so good with late round picks. I mean, that's why they don't even have first round picks anymore, really. I feel like they're so focused on their late round picks because they know they can knock them out of the park. Talanoa Hufanga, all pro. And one thing that Lynch said is they focus now their draft from going backwards. They look at the end of the draft picks, those prospects, before they creep up to the top end of the draft. So it shows you how much they know they can hit on these late round picks, value picks for pennies on the dollar. Going back to Mayoko's draft, though.
Yeah, what do you think?
Jake, honestly, okay, so out of all the picks, the one that surprised me the most, because Byron Young, I've mocked him to the Niners many times. I think that makes a lot of sense. We talked about edge. But Jake Moody, to me, I would go crazy. He's the top kicker in the draft. Obviously, we talked about this a while back when they signed Zane Gonzalez. John Lynch says they got a kicker, not the kicker. Is Jake Moody the kicker? They bring him in. Is he the kicker? Obviously, top kicker in the draft. Would he be the franchise kicker? I like that pick. I think we need to make sure we have a really good kicker into this team because we're losing Robbie Gould, a playoff legend. The guy doesn't miss when it comes to playoffs. So you better make sure you have a kicker that's not going to miss kicks in the playoffs, because if there's a kicker that comes in next year and we're 2 seconds left in the game, all we got to do is hit a field goal and we miss, it's going to be war zone on the timeline out there and on Twitter. So I like the Moody pick. I love Moody. Get him.
It's an interesting list. It really is. I would say that Maddie's going, shopping for needs over best player available and draft board. But you know what? There ain't nothing wrong with that either. I mean, you come out of this draft filling all your needs. It's all about getting guys that you think can make your roster. The one thing about Byron Young from Tennessee, he had an awesome workout in Indianapolis. But the Niners, I really think, like bigger defensive ends. I think they're going to go for somebody more like 265 or heavier. I don't see too many 240, 245, 250 range guys. And I think that's where Byron Young from Tennessee sits. Haven't studied Wanya Morris very much from Oklahoma. Have to take a look at him. I really like the Schoonmaker pick. He had an incredible on-campus workout with the Wolverine in Ann Arbor. The Jake Moody thing, Raj, I've had people tell me that the Niners are going back to Robbie Gould, and that have you heard that too? I mean, that
I've
that
seen
that
people
Zane
say
Gonzalez is about Robbie Gould, and that this talk about these rookies is all about Robbie Gould, and that Robbie Gould will be back with the Niners. I mean, that to me seems that's like wild. That's a really wild story if that's indeed the case, because they traded a conditional draft choice for Zane Gonzalez, and they've been working out a number of kickers. Could it all be? Is their first priority to bring back Robbie? And Robbie's still out there, right? He's not. He hasn't signed.
that. Yeah, he hasn't signed. So, and the people that I've heard out there, they're saying it's like a full court press to show like Robbie, like, look, man, this is what we're doing. We're moving on. You want to come back? Like it's like it's kind of a
Like high stake poker kind of
yeah, it's
game.
kind of like a sick gamble. You're gambling to say, oh, you're throwing fire on the fuel to say, hey, look, you come with us. Oh, okay, we'll get a kicker, Robbie. Hey, you still want to come? Oh, we're gonna draft a guy, and they're like banking on Robbie to be jealous to say, you know what, I'm better than both of those guys you got. I'm coming back. It's kind of a weird tactic. I don't think that he'll come back, but I feel like there is some truth to that little tactic. But I don't know, man. I think they'll ultimately take a kicker and move on with themselves. I wouldn't mind Jake Moody. But again, it's hard to replace a guy like Robbie Gould because he doesn't miss in the playoffs. And the Niners, if we miss a field goal, man, it's going to be, peoples are going to just go, and they're going to sit here and say, you should never have got rid of Robbie. You should have paid him. But it's kind of weird that there's like controversy on the kicker situation. In my eyes, I think Robbie definitely wants to stay closer to home, but I don't think anybody offered him. And now he's kind of like, oh, I thought this was going to be easy for me. I thought my market was going to be easy. But again, it's the draft also. So a lot of teams aren't going to be active right now. I think they're going to wait. And then after the draft, right, the week after the draft, there's another little wave of free agent signings that usually happens when people don't hit their needs. Like you said, with the 49ers, Maioco's draft is they're drafting on their needs. And I think the 49ers over the last couple of years have showed that's kind of what they do. They don't always go with best player available where, in the past they would try to take the best player and it maybe backfired. But I feel like the 49ers, they kind of know their roster. They know what players work for them. And then like you said with Byron Young, maybe that's not the guy they get because they know they're looking for a big, just, speed rusher off the edge. But I definitely think they have to take an edge rusher with one of their first two picks because
Yeah.
I'm not too thrilled with that edge situation other than Bosa. Like I like Drake Jackson, but there's a lot of pressure on him to produce this year. And then the other guys, Farrell, Bryant, Barrett, I don't know if they're even going to get
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Raj. It's nice to have depth, and I'm never going to say, "Oh, bad move getting depth at D line," but I don't. I think the guys that walked out the door are significantly better than the guys that came through the door. As far as the edge, obviously Javon Hargrave is big
yeah.
time, but Ebukam, Menahue, those guys are really good football players. Jordan Willis, I mean, God knows Jordan Willis made some big plays for them, and I don't see Cleveland Farrell and Austin Bryant in that category. So I agree with you. I think edge rusher is going to be significant.